I want our producer, Jeff Capitasto, to just channel John Cusack from Say Anything, buy himself a trench coat and a boombox, and stand outside Terry McLaurin and the Commanders' house and stadium, respectively. He's not coming. He's not getting traded. We don't have to keep talking about it. We have J.P. Finlay on 2 weeks ago to stop this. It's not happening.
Well, Curran, maybe you learned a lesson. You never want to go after a producer because they remember where all the old sound is kept. Just a few days after that rant from Curran, Commander star receiver Terry McLaurin requesting a trade due to unhappiness over his contract situation. Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer, who will join the show later, writing this today. The Commanders to this point have shown zero desire to trade Terry McLaurin. And despite the trade request, I'm told they have no plan to change course on that. But what requests will likely do is prompt incoming calls. I don't think the Terry McLaurin Commander situation is irreparable, but the signs went over a month without talking, and there's been little progress since. There's a divide across the board, APY, guarantees, etc., that need to be bridged. Can it be? Sure, but, and it is that but that we are all hanging on to. Tommy Curran is down at Gillette Stadium. Michael Hurley is here in studio with me. Curran, pretty cool scrimmage going on down there today at Gillette Stadium. Yeah, I know. Normally we would talk about that, but do you think the Patriots have enough to change the minds of the Commanders to lure Terry McLaurin, not to the scrimmage, but maybe in time for a preseason game or two?
If any team in the National Football League has enough, it's the New England Patriots. They have $60 million of cap space. They're not going to give that money to Washington, but they can somehow, if they were given the chance to talk to the agent for Terry McLaurin, they could articulate, this is what we will give you. They also have draft picks. And if you're an opposing team talking to the Patriots, you have an opportunity to say, you're probably still not a good team. It'll be a top 15 draft pick if we were able to entice you with the one. So between satisfying Washington and satisfying Terry McLaurin, the Patriots could do that. I do remain somewhat steadfast in my stance from earlier in the week. Washington is not going to trade away, having been a Final Four team last year, Terry McLaurin, the best player who's married up with a very, very good quarterback, and have Washington fans get back a first-round pick for next year when they have aspirations of being further along than they were even last year in the Final Four. But Terry McLaurin demanding the trade does push some more chips into the middle of the table.
Do you think they'd be willing to part with him?
That's what I'm confused about in the part where I was with Tom on Monday, where you're saying, why would they trade him? Because he is, I don't know the exact, but he accounted for about 35% of their offense last year, Colin. He is that significant. And when you look, it's not that difficult. Like, you give him DK Metcalf getting 4 years, 130 with 60 guaranteed, 80 fully. You could kind of use that as your base work. You can, as Breer said in that tweet, you can tweak this here and tweak that there, but it doesn't seem like rocket science. So I understand what Breer is saying, where they don't want to trade him. But how is it getting here, and how have they not made any progress after he showed up last weekend?
Curran, you mentioned the draft picks. To me, a first might be a bridge too far, just because I think they might have a top 15 pick again next year. But do you think a second-round pick could get it done? Like, what gets Terry McLaurin, at least maybe get the Commanders interested in bringing Terry McLaurin to New England?
Yeah, generally speaking, we end up finding out that the compensation, the draft pick compensation, tends to be lower than we all originally think. So a second would probably be satisfactory, but you have to, if you're the Washington Commanders and you finally say, we have reached a total impasse, he's a dink, we cannot deal with him, don't want him on our team, and we don't want the sight of him anymore, and they turn around and say, we got a fifth for Terry. You can't. I mean, that's a team that has been moribund under the Dan Snyder regime forever, and now they're showing not just signs of life, but signs of energy. And if they traded away Terry McLaurin because of, a couple $1 million in APY on the contract, they would lose a massive amount of good faith with their fan base. So to me, it's really hard to envision this. It's worth talking about 1,000,000% since he's requested a trade, but I still think that you'd have to put the likelihood at under 10%.
Here are Terry McLaurin's next team odds if the wide receiver does leave Washington. Patriots are your odds-on favorites, plus 450. Raiders right behind at plus 500, followed by the Titans, Chargers, and the Jets. Speaking of the Raiders, Sports Illustrated's Burt Breer is on his camp tour. He made a little stop in Las Vegas. That is where he is right now. Michael Hurley still in studio with me. Burt, first and foremost, what are you hearing about what's really going on behind the scenes with Terry McLaurin and the Commanders? And what time, roughly, did the Patriots make a call to try and acquire him?
Well, I'd assume they've already made a call. I know they checked in on this before, and it's something I think that you have to look at if you're a team like the Patriots that would need some help at receiver, both short term and long term. As for where it is, it's exactly where you'd think. It's a disagreement in value. They love Terry McLaurin. Adam Peters, Dan Quinn view him as a part of their future. They've made offers to him. There's just a fundamental disagreement on where his value is. He wants something close to what DK Metcalf got. That was a 4-year, $132 million deal, about $33 million per year. And if you take the whole of it, it came out to about $150 million over 5, with $60 million fully guaranteed over the first 2 years. The Commanders haven't gotten to that level yet. There was about a month and a half there where there were no talks between the sides. They picked those talks back up at the start of training camp, and really there hasn't been much movement since. And you see the frustration on McLaurin. This is not a guy who's a malcontent, right? And if anybody who's been around Terry McLaurin knows, it would take a lot for him to get to this point. And now he's pulling levers. He tried to hold out. He tried to hold in. Now he's trying the trade request. I think he'd like to stay in Washington, but obviously they haven't been able to find that middle ground on the contract.
Burt, I know you said on Twitter that things aren't irreparable, that what this does is open up more calls, basically. But what would have to happen for it to get there? Because I think we're all trying to figure out how they haven't gotten this done. It doesn't seem like rocket science. You mentioned the DK Metcalf deal. This is a new regime. It's not the same old Washington franchise. How is it not resolved yet? And could it take a turn for the worse, do you think?
Well, you got to remember, Michael, for somebody to give the Commanders something that would entice them to move, that team would have to value him at a level financially higher than the Commanders do. And then on top of that, be willing to give him that contract and put draft capital into it, right? So you'd be talking about a pretty high price from a draft pick standpoint. And I think you'd probably need to include an active player too. The idea of trading Terry McLaurin would go against every single thing the Commanders have done this offseason. And really going back to the middle of last year when they traded for Marshawn Lattimore, they trade for Deebo Samuel, they trade for Laramie Tunsil. They're really trying to take advantage of the window they're in with a young superstar quarterback on his rookie contract. So I feel like you would have to include the draft capital for sure, but then you might have to include an active player. And one thought I did have, and this is just, I don't want to see a report on this or anything else, but if you were the Patriots, would you consider trading Stephon Diggs in a second-round pick there? Because if you look at the idea of that, Stephon Diggs is from D.C., right? So that'd be a homecoming for him. And it would give the Commanders some more financial flexibility with the contract that Steph has. It would give them the extra piece of draft capital. And then the Patriots would have a receiver that you could build around for the next few years. Again, that's just an idea, but I think it's important to remember, this is a team that feels like it's in a championship window right now. And if you're in a championship window right now, you don't want to be trading one of your very best players, one of the guys who you've built an entire program around, for an asset that's not going to give you any help until next April.
But would that be a smart ploy?
And only an asset. I'm saying that asset would be part of it, but only an asset that'll help you next April.
But for the Patriots, Burt, would that be a smart way to go? One thing is the second round pick, right? I think everybody agrees that if it costs a second round pick, that's not giving up the world. But when you add Stephon Diggs, I think the allure of Terry McLaurin is that you pair him with Stephon Diggs, then Pop Douglas goes a little bit down, Kayshon Boutte, guys who've always been sort of middling receivers. You got really two top receivers, and it sort of just falls into place more. Is it enough? Is it enough? Is it a true 1-for-1? Would that be beneficial for the Pats to make a deal like that?
I think you'd have to look at it I think you have to look at it through the eyes of the other team. And again, if you're looking at it through the eyes of the Commanders are all in for this year. They're all in for the period of time they have with the opportunity with the superstar quarterback on a rookie contract. And to me, that means they're going to want somebody who can help them right now. You can give them a first-round pick, you can give them a second-round pick, you can give them a combination of picks. Those picks are not going to help them in 2025. And if they think they're in a position to compete for a championship in 2025, then they're going to want someone who can help them right now. Those draft picks won't help them until 2026. So, I think it would have to be a combination of a player that can help them right now at the receiver position, because when you get past Terry McLaurin, it's really bleak for the Commanders. So you'd be hurting not only your team, but your young quarterback by moving him off the roster. So I think you'd have to, and then on top of that, you have to give them some draft picks. So, I think it's going to be difficult to get them to move because of how much they think of Terry McLaurin and because of the amount of control and leverage they have here. But I think that would be the starting point, something that's going to help them right now, and then draft capital on top of it.